Yesterday, when we had our session, Ron and others were talking about Judas and his relationship to Jesus and the crucifixion. And I think from it we glean quite a bit in understanding that everything we look at that was supposed to be a negative in the scriptures has turned out to be quite the contrary, which means that as far as we have seen up to this point, negativity does not exist in the scriptures. Why? Because everything is meant for the enhancement of humanity. Even when the shortcomings are pointed out, they're not there to detract from the divinity of the human. They're there to help the one who doesn't know what it means to be human to move from an animalistic state that mankind seems to be encapsulated in. Move from that to the idea of what being human looks like. So what I'm going to do is ask if there are any questions. And, of course, my voice is hoarse. Therefore, I'm going to ask someone to facilitate, and I will speak when I see something or when something is shown to me. However, I would like to ask again if there are questions or there are comments about any encounter that you come in contact with. If you want to make sure that you're... Hello, would everyone make sure their phones are muted? Thank you. Ron, you want to do overview or Sheldon? One of you.
How's everybody doing tonight? I did have an observation. If there are no other questions or somebody want to go in a different direction.
What's your observation?
I was looking at something here, and this is kind of in response to conversations that we had last week. I think it seems that the deeper we go in our studies, the more sensitive we become to our surroundings and what's around us, and even our discomforts at times. And I saw something here in Matthew chapter 7 that kind of caught my attention, and I want to share it with you. Matthew chapter 7, verse 13 and 14. And we're all familiar with this, but it says, enter by the narrow gate. The gate is wide, and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and many are those who enter by it. For the gate is small, and the way is narrow that leads to life, and few are those who find it. The word there that stuck out to me is the word narrow. It has the same root as trouble, a tightness. And it talks about going through anguish, going through adversity, going through something that may cause you stress. And maybe that's what we describe when we talk about things and look at some of the things we're not comfortable with. Maybe that's where we are. Maybe that's describing where we are. So when I saw that, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's an indicator to me that even though things may at times become uncomfortable, and we have to pick up the phone and call each other, rely on each other, meditate, whatever the case may be, this shows that this discomfort has a purpose to it. And the word life, the root for the word life, it says lead to life. The root of the word life is thought. So that just was kind of interesting to me. So all this pruning and things that I guess that, you're going through, or people in your family or in your circle are going through, is kind of molding us or changing out the way we think, the way we see things, and pruning us to be what we have asked to become. So any other thoughts on that? Anybody?
I'd just like to say that resonates, Ron. This is Barbara. If you look at this wide gate, wide to me indicates spaciousness and indicates something that's easy to go through. And when I think about that, I think about when you're entering a wide gate, you can easily be distracted by whatever else is going on in this wide space. It can take your thoughts and your mind and your eye off focus because you're so busy looking. The narrow gate, if it's a narrow gate, you have to be focused about where you're going and how you're going through. So if life relates to thoughts, then yes, indeed, our thoughts have to be focused and have to be directed, if you will, by us, rather than letting us just amble all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I was thinking too, along the same lines, the wideness of the gate really doesn't cost you anything. But the narrow gate to me says nothing can enter but Ron. So all the baggage, all the things that may be valuable to Ron have to be discarded. You have to make a decision whether or not, because this is not the space, as you just said, to carry all that, to bring all that with you. So now the focus is on Ron. The thoughts are on Ron because all that other baggage, if you will, is gone.
The idea of going through the narrow gate also, I think, speaks to the concept of moving across boundaries between the worlds, and it does not come without confusion. And the confusion is there because we are not accustomed to what we are experiencing. And the reason we have to talk things out is because we need to dispel the confusion so that it can be an orderly pathway that not only we travel, but a pathway that has been blazed for those who will travel that same pathway after we have traveled it. Because the idea of straight speaks to being fragile, you know, a delicate. So it's talking about the fragility of our thoughts and acceptance as we go through that gate, or as we move into the place of going through the narrow gate. And I think a better understanding of it would be that straight speaks to our vulnerabilities, and without being vulnerable, without exposing our vulnerabilities, it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to move into to cross the boundaries between the worlds of understanding. Are there any questions about that or comments? Does it resonate?
It does resonate. It does. I was writing that down. Okay.
Ron, the thing that occurs
Yes,
to me
yes, ma'am.
too is the narrow gate kind of reminds me of the fact that it's an internal journey too.
Yes.
Not necessarily an outward thing. Anyway, that I can't explain it more than that. That's just what occurred to me.
Well, to me, to sum up what you're saying, and if I can, I remember either last week or the week before, if I can use Evelyn as an example, she had a concern with something or someone on her job, maybe a caller. I can't remember the details of it, but she really had genuine concern for that. I think that's the kind of thought. The narrowness puts us in focus to cross these, how Pastor put it, these make this journey. And as you're saying, it's an internal thing. It's a spiritual thing, if you will. And the part of the uncomfortableness of it is very much something new to us. We have for quite some time now been traveling in spaces that we've never been before. And I don't know if that will get comfortable anytime soon. But it very much is an internal thing. And I had not thought about it from the perspective that Pastor just explained it, but that just adds a new dimension to it to me. And it also took my mind back to thinking about the journey of going back to beginning and what that is for. What you know, it is not something for you. It is something for you to gain awareness as for mankind. And so all that just came floating back to me.
May I speak to the vulnerabilities? I don't think we ever get beyond our vulnerabilities, and I don't think we get beyond our discomfort, because every time we become comfortable with one thing, we see something else that is discomforting. And what I mean by that is the way we talked about Ishmael in relationship to spirituality, as opposed to the way we once did it. That is the exposure of a vulnerability. The idea of Jesus having been married to Mary of Magdala, another vulnerability. I see the vulnerabilities as those things that of truth that we see that's totally, totally antithetical to what we have been taught in previous years. And those vulnerabilities are actually the very things that makes us strong. It takes a strong, determined person to expose their vulnerabilities time after time. And that's what it appears that we are constantly and consistently doing, exposing our vulnerabilities by speaking about things in a totally different way than we have been taught or any way that we've heard it before. I'm done.
Well, that was just an observation. I think about things that, when we talk and what we say and recognizing that the journey is not always measurable in ways we understand or we're accustomed to. But I see this as a measurement to show us that, sometimes even the way we feel is a positive thing. And when you think things are down or not moving, your life is not moving in the direction that it you would like it to. So that's just a thought that when I saw this, I thought it was interesting to show us that the deeper we get into this, the more narrow this may become. And but we will always be here for each other. If that hopefully is any comfort.
But then
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, because you can go ahead to I guess respond to exactly what Ron said, because I was going to touch on something that Audrey said.
No, I was not going to respond directly to it, but I was going to add to it, going further into it. So go ahead and do the response.
Okay. It's just that I definitely noticed and think too what Audrey mentioned about the narrow gate being looking within, and actually aligns as well with the rest of the chapter, at least the chapter from like 1 to a few verses, 15, 16, 17, etc., where it is focusing from the very beginning about to the person who is actually reading or study or meditating on this in terms of turning within, and that meditation being singular, being straight forward in terms of what's going on with them. And it doesn't deal a lot with anyone else or what anyone else is doing. It's all about the individual person focusing in from the very beginning, starting with not judging, and and then being judged as well, and then talking about the splinter in your neighbor's eye when you have a beam, and then also saying, once you do the work within in terms of examining and working on yourself, then you can be more helpful to the other individuals. Not only can you be helpful, you will see that the problem that you are dealing with personally is actually bigger than the problem, at least it would be perceived that way, than the other person is dealing with. Essentially saying that what is most important to be focused on is I don't want to say the problem with ourselves, but the actual, the untangling of the things that that we allow or we catch ourselves being bounded up by. I guess that's all I wanted to oh, and then even going further along to some of the verses that Ron mentioned with 13 and 14, saying that the people who have that wide view, in a sense, are being blinded by being consumed or having their attentions focused on everything else. And because they have their intentions focused on everything else, that in itself distracts them from looking from within. And it also follows it up by the people who look without are more likely to get caught up essentially by the false prophet as well, and to actually be fooled also. That's it at the moment.
I wanted to add to that is that when he speaks about there are few who find the way. But let me back up a moment. The path, the journey is to the light. It's to life itself. It's to understand what life energy is and the source of it. And it says that there are few who will find it. And the reason being is because they give up too quickly, or they give in to the pressures of those around them who are not seeking anything except what they are holding on to currently. So when it speaks of few finding it, it is not saying that it's only available to a few people. It's saying that it's available to those who are willing to persevere and who are willing to recognize and dismiss the distractions for the purpose of being able to travel this pathway that leads to life and light itself. And what I was going to couple that with, Sheldon already covered it when he talked about the false prophets. Because if you're faint of heart, then the popular pastors, preachers, teachers, those who are followed by many, will pressure you into abandoning the journey that you are on, even though it resonates with you and you see it as being true. You just don't want to have to go through the struggles of standing firmly on what you know the truth to be. And again, I do agree wholeheartedly that all of this is an internal thing. And if it's not dealt with internally, then it will not be dealt with properly collectively. Because until we recognize the struggles internally, until we quieten the voices and blind ourselves to the distractions, we won't be able to hear from each other so that we can truly see what this life energy is all about, what this pathway looks like, and what the experiences are along the way. Thank you.
Is
Hey,
it,
Rep, I agree with that wholeheartedly because before you got into it, I was going to speak on that too, but not in the depth that you were saying, but I believe what you're saying.
Thank you, sir.
is this gate
Go ahead.
the same as the door in John 10:9? And I'm not thinking of a person. I'm thinking about the symbolism of what the gate is and what the door is. If I am the door, this is what Jesus said, I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. And then in John 14:6, it talks about I am the way, the truth, and the life. So are these all talking about that same gate or door or spiritual mindset?
They are, because it talks about an opening or something that flows through an opening. In both cases, be it the gate or the door. And if we really give thought to it, when Jesus said that he is the door, then all he's saying is that he is the opening that leads us to light and life, and that's the same principle involved here with the gate in Matthew. At least that's the way I perceive it to be, based upon how I have looked at the door previously.
We never think about door or gate as being symbols of life and death. You walk through that door, you walk through that gate, you're leaving something behind. The room or the space that you left behind, you're dead to it. It's gone, and you're walking into a new freshness of something. So I agree with the observation. Yeah, that's very important to see. To make that's making a decision to change your life, to say this is what I will follow, this is who I am, and I'm going to let that old be deceased, or it's literally, and well, spiritually anyway, speaking of life and death, at least again, that's how I see that.
I think I looked up door and gate, and I think they were saying about the same thing, an entrance.
Yes.
That's all.
Okay. So it's something I noticed about this also. This door, this entrance, never speaks of being closed. It's always open. And with it always being open, that means that it's always available. It also says that if you don't enter that opening, it's because you choose not to, which again is an internal decision. And in order to make internal decisions, we have to determine that our influences are going to be based upon what the scripture says as opposed to what we are told they're supposed to be based upon. When we look at, when we think about, rather, the things that we've been taught about the gate or the door, it's as if we have been told that the door is closed to certain people because they are not quote unquote Christian, or they believe differently than what we believe. Yet there is nothing in the scriptures that infers that that's true. So, in essence, we, as Ron stated previously, we must leave the dead things behind. And the dead things are the judgmental attitudes that we have about other people who don't see things the way we see them, or who don't believe as we believe, yet they are traveling in the same direction. And when I say don't believe as we believe, I am saying that even if a person believes that an ant is the thing that leads you through that doorway, we are not to be judgmental of that, because once they enter that doorway, their entrance, once they go there into this other world, they will see better. Just like we had to see better before we were able to not only know better, not only to live better, but also to teach better. So it's incumbent upon us to guide people, but not to force them. I'm done.
Hey, Rev, where it say life, is this the same in life, like the tree of life? Well, we ain't talking about a tree, we're talking about a source.
Yes.
This source, it would get you to there. What I'm trying to say, when we were supposed to do it the right way in the beginning, and we chose the wrong way, this right here leads you back. God is giving you a way back into life.
Yes, that's the one way of putting it, Charles. You're right. There's always, the opening is always available. There's nothing you can do to avoid going through that opening except decide that you're not going to do it. That's it. If you decide sincerely that that's what you are seeking, then that entranceway is available. It's all in determining what are you truly seeking. The other part of that is when you sincerely go through that opening, you begin to see life energy. You begin to see what the light is. When you teach it, when you talk about it, begin to put it in the macro, and it's available to other people, and they may not ever see it as Jesus being the door, or the narrow way that leads to this gate. They may never say it in those words, but in their actions, they may embrace it. We don't have to be able to verbally articulate everything in order for us to embrace it. Because I would say that most of us who are on the line, most of the time when we get off the line and someone asks what we talked about, we don't know. So you don't have to be able to verbally articulate what you spiritually experience. However, you know when you have that spiritual experience because it resonates with you. I'm done. And I hope that helped, Charles.
Oh, yes, sir, it did.
There's some more things I wanted to say about life and death here as well. If you notice, it is talking about leading to life, and it essentially is talking to us and talking to everyone, but it is presumably talking to people who are already, doing air quotes, living in the physical. So this life and this death that it is actually speaking about is not death as in some type of punishment, as in you're going to die and perish from this earth. And it can't be talking about that also as it relates to life, because we're essentially already living if we're just talking about a physical life. what it is talking about is living a life, a true life that is beyond just the physical, or beyond someone's concept of actually living on this physical earth. Going further with the idea of life and death, what the death means is death is just simply something that turns us away, or death is not being able to experience that life that it is speaking of right now. Which I say that to say, I guess for two reasons. One, for us, in a sense, not to judge ourselves about that death or be fearful about that death, because certainly all of us have experienced that particular death. But also, in order to aspire more and focus more for this life that it speaks of. Okay.
Wow, that's good. Very insightful. The original intent, when I looked at this, was to maybe bring some comfort to us, as to let us know we're on the right path here. But we've gained so much more from this discussion. Anyone else? Any other observations or questions?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is Barbara. When this talks about the narrow, gate, the narrow path, it reminds me of being in tight spots, not necessarily physically, but mentally and spiritually, and having to make decisions while in that spot. It reminds me of being pressed, and the pressing is what I'm being disentangled from. It reminds me of grapes being pressed, being stepped on, being stomped, or olives. The oil doesn't come out unless it's pressed. And so this is what the narrow gate is saying, that the lifestyle we live is one that is going to, is designed to help us rid ourselves, as you said, Ron, of the baggage, and to be able to get through this awareness, to that awareness of who we are, without the pressure and without the constraint and without the straightness of the gate. Lots of times we don't have any motivation for moving forward. And unfortunately, sometimes it's challenges, it's things like that, where we feel at our lowest, that are able to propel us forward when we overcome them, rather than lay down in it and waddle in it while we're in it, or feel, or let it consume us. It just propels us forward when we're victorious over whatever that challenge is. So it's like the grapes. It's allowing us to see more and more of what our spiritual essence is. And lots of people don't want to go through that. They just want to go along with the crowd. And lots of times the crowd can push you in a place, because you don't necessarily, if you're in a crowd, you don't necessarily see or focus on everything you need to be focused on. You just go along to get along, or you go along because you're pushed with the crowd moving forward. The point of the crowd is that sometimes there can be a stampede and people can lose their life. The narrow gate is making a decision that I'm not going that way, I'm going this way. And and while it might be easier to get through that broader gate, I have decided to take this path and live
Mhm.
by the guidance given me along this path.
Yes.
I agree, BJ, because getting back to it being an internal thing, anytime you make a breakthrough, a so-called breakthrough, there's a bit of an internal struggle that you go through, and you either eventually make a decision that you're going to go where that struggle is leading you, or you're not. So yeah, I agree that it is sort of a pressing and anything in life, when you are deciding which way you're going to go, you have sort of an internal struggle. And sometimes if you're choosing that narrow way, yeah, it's going to feel like even more of a struggle, because you have to make a decision, as opposed to just, oh, I'm not going to do it because everybody's going this way and I feel like I just need to go with everybody. So you kind of give up on yourself or whatever. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you. It is a pressing.
And the pressing never stops. It doesn't indicate at any point that the way the gate gets any wider. It's always narrow. It's always pressure. And the pressure, I think, is what reminds us of the commitment or lack thereof. The pressures that are endured determines whether or not you're going to remain committed to what you say you're committed to. And I dare say that every one of us on this phone who made that commitment to move away from what we have been taught in order to learn what we didn't know, have experienced and still experience the pressure of going through that narrow way. And I do believe that the reason it's pressure and it's so narrow is because, I think as Ron said at the onset, Ron has to go through that narrow way. And it's so narrow until your baggage won't fit. You have to let go of your baggage. And when you let go of your baggage, you find yourself naked. You find yourself in a state of, again, vulnerability. And it feels as though you have no way to turn because it's so narrow. And moving forward, you begin to see that this is the first time you've ever been clothed. And this is the first time that the pressures of moving forward have made you feel like you're making progress for humanity and not just for yourself. Thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Does it make sense? Anyone who may not have had a chance to comment, does it make sense? Does it resonate with you?
Yes, it resonates with me.
Okay.
Ron, I do believe that these observations are with tremendous merit, and we haven't seen it yet. There was a reason why these observations are being discussed. It's almost like they're being discussed on the spur of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems so simple. However, suppose what we are is that we are being shown that there was a time when we did as Judas did. We delivered the Messiah to the hands of those who would crucify it. And we're being shown maybe the reason there is so much pressure, the things that seem like they're never ending, and causing us to cry out for an end and to long for things to be peaceful and balanced and different than what they are. These observations are showing us that this is indeed the way of life. This is how we get there. And if we were not experiencing these pressures in the society that we live in, the pressures that causes us sometimes to be bewildered because of what we know the truth to be, experiencing them is not only preparing us, but it's preparing humanity also for this pathway of love. If we were to go through these straits and had no pressures, and we saw all the hardships that people are going through, and we did not have any kind of response to it, no empathy for it, then would we truly be traveling the pathway that leads to life? When balance begins to flow like the rivers of water, that is when the real labor begins. Not treating people the way we were treated, not even perceiving them in the way they perceived us, exceeding the expectations of those who have made themselves an enemy to everything that is holy. I believe that this is the preparation that we are experiencing as we discuss what we are seeing here. Because what we are seeing are not things that we have studied before or made preparations before tonight to discuss. It's simply opportunity presented for the heart that's overflowing to speak what the soul sees in order for those who are struggling to understand that struggle is a part of the journey. It is not designed to destroy or to weaken, rather to strengthen and to lead to a victorious end. I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Well, we don't have to stay on the line if we got all we see out of this. But if you guys are see anything, we can talk about it Saturday. Before we leave, though, I got two things I want to share with you that happened today that I thought was awesome, and one may have been the catalyst for the second one. But I was leaving to go to work this morning, and I leave about 5 a.m. when I leave the house, and I saw this story, this news story about this woman, this European woman stops at I think it was Dunkin' Donuts in the morning. Some of you may have seen this morning, but she stops at the drive-thru every morning, and she had become friends with this young black woman who worked there, and she had worked there 3 years, and she see her every morning. They became friends. Well, the lady disappeared for a while, and the employee did. So the woman would come by and get her donuts and ask about her, and 2 or 3 weeks went by, and she found out that the woman had some financial difficulties and getting evicted. Well, she called people she knew and different organizations, and long story short, she bought her a house. She bought this woman a house along with her 3 kids and had it fully furnished. And that was amazing to me. I needed to see that. I needed to hear that when all I see is negative stuff. And that really just kind of, it did something for me. It did something, with it being an interracial thing as well. It really moved me. And it may have, I had a day today. The work didn't change. My back still hurt. It was a typical Monday as far as that's concerned, but I had the best day as far as feelings and meditation and not feeling down, not being depressed or being angry about anything. It was just a place, a day that if I've had one like this, I don't remember it. But it was not only just not feeling bad, it was feeling good and being in a good place. And I remember several times during the day just giving praise and saying, thank you, thank you, God. Thank you, Lord, for what I feel right now. And like I say, I don't recall having a full day. We all have those moments where you're at that place and you want to stay there. But today was one of those days that just felt good all day. And it was unusual. It was appreciated. And tomorrow doesn't even matter, But those two things today stood out to me and made a very bright and beautiful Monday. So, on that note, I hope you guys have an awesome week. And as always, I look forward to talking to you on Saturday.
You do the same, and thank you for sharing.
Yes, sir.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
and bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Ron. Bye, everybody.
Bye, family.
Thanks, Ron. See you on Saturday.
Bye, everybody.
Skype.